The message arrived just after midnight. Emily froze the moment she saw the sender. No name. No details. Only one chilling line glowing on her screen. If you want the truth about your husband, don't tell anyone. Her hands trembled as she read it again. The room felt colder. The silence grew heavier. Michael was asleep upstairs, breathing peacefully. Too peacefully. Emily stared at the message, heart pounding in her chest. Secrets had a way of finding their own path. And this one had just walked straight into her life. She sensed a storm coming. A storm she never asked for. Emily remembered the days when life felt simple. The mornings were slow and warm. Michael brewed coffee before she woke. He hummed old songs while the sun crept in. Their small house carried a peaceful rhythm. It felt like a place untouched by chaos. Emily trusted the quiet more than anything. She believed trust was the foundation of love. Michael always smiled with soft certainty. He spoke gently and held her hand often. Every routine made her feel grounded. Every moment felt intentionally calm. Nothing hinted at the storm ahead. But small changes began to creep in. Michael started staying late at work. He brushed off her questions with ease. He laughed too casually at her worries. Emily tried to ignore the unease inside. She told herself marriages had phases. She believed good people made mistakes sometimes. Still, something felt different in his presence. His eyes drifted away more often. His phone never left his pocket. He guarded it like a fragile secret. Emily noticed how he stepped outside to answer calls. He returned with a stiff smile. He never offered explanations anymore. He just said everything was fine. But fine began to lose its meaning. Michael grew distant in small, sharp ways. He stopped reaching for her hand at night. He forgot their weekend plans without apology. He avoided conversations that once came naturally. Emily tried planning little surprises for him. She hoped warmth could soften the space between them. But Michael responded with distracted gratitude. His voice lacked the sincerity she once knew. The house felt quieter every evening. Even the air seemed different around him. Emily sensed a wall she could not see. It stood between them, cold and firm. She wondered if she had failed somehow. She wondered what she had missed earlier. The signs now seemed painfully obvious. But at the time, denial felt safer. Denial allowed her to sleep at night. It allowed her to pretend nothing had changed. Yet change had arrived without warning. It grew larger with each passing week. Michael spent more nights out than in. He claimed new projects demanded his time. Emily wanted to believe him desperately. But fear whispered against her heart. It whispered that truth was closing in. She began observing him more closely. Every glance felt like a clue. Every sentence felt like a half-truth. Michael avoided her gaze often now. His smile never reached his eyes anymore. Emily replayed memories to reassure herself. She clung to old moments like lifelines. But memories could not shield her forever. The distance between them kept widening. It stretched across their home like shadow. Even sunlight felt weaker these days. Emily sensed something breaking quietly. Breaking in a way she could not ignore. She felt the beginning of a painful truth. A truth quietly unraveling her perfect world. Emily found the receipt on a quiet Tuesday morning. She was cleaning the car like she always did. The paper was folded twice and tucked under the seat. It looked harmless at first glance. Just a simple hotel invoice. But her breath shifted when she read the details. The room had been booked 2 weeks earlier. The name on the reservation belonged to someone else. But the phone number was unmistakably Michael's. Emily stared at it until her vision blurred. Her hands felt cold despite the warm air. Nothing about the receipt made sense to her. Nothing fit the life she thought she understood. She checked the date again, hoping she misread it. But the truth stared back without mercy. Michael had lied about working late that night. He had come home exhausted and distant. He had kissed her forehead like nothing was wrong. That memory now twisted inside her chest. Emily folded the receipt and slipped it into her pocket. She felt the world tilt in a quiet, painful way. Every suspicion she had pushed aside returned sharply. She replayed recent nights in her mind. His vague excuses felt different now. His strange behavior suddenly had weight. A heavy weight she could no longer ignore. Emily went back into the house slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. She sat at the kitchen table in silence. The receipt lay in front of her like evidence. Evidence of something she feared to name. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. He said he would be home late again. The timing cut through her like a blade. She typed a response, but deleted it quickly. She didn't trust her voice or her judgment. She needed clarity before confronting him. She needed to know if this was real. Emily opened her laptop with trembling fingers. She searched the hotel listed on the receipt. Her eyes traced the booking details carefully. Everything pointed back to Michael. There was no other explanation she could find. A hollow ache spread across her chest. She wondered how long this had been happening. She wondered if she had been blind all along. The questions felt endless and cruel. Emily tried calling the number listed, but stopped halfway. Fear held her hand still. Fear told her she wasn't ready for the truth. She placed the phone down and inhaled shakily. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She sensed something larger behind this clue. Something hidden in the shadows of Michael's life. Something she was never supposed to find. The receipt felt like a doorway she couldn't close. A doorway leading into darkness and secrets. Emily touched the paper as if it might vanish. But it stayed, solid and undeniable. She folded it carefully and hid it in her drawer. She knew this was only the beginning. The first crack in a truth long concealed. And once a crack appeared, nothing stayed intact. Emily felt her world shifting again. This time, there was no denying the change. The truth was coming for her. And she could no longer pretend she didn't see it forming. Emily agreed to meet the sender at a small cafe downtown. The morning was overcast, gray clouds hanging low. She arrived early, her heart hammering in her chest. Every step toward the cafe felt heavier than the last. She scanned the tables, looking for someone familiar. No one looked like they would carry such secrets. Then a woman stood up from the corner table. She had sharp eyes and a tense posture. Her name tag read Amanda, though Emily didn't ask. Amanda waved slightly, signaling Emily to come closer. Emily approached cautiously, unsure what to expect. Amanda motioned for her to sit across the table. The air between them was thick with tension. Amanda's voice was quiet but firm. "I know about Michael," she said immediately. Emily's stomach dropped at the words. Her hands gripped the edge of the table tightly. "I've tried to ignore it, but I can't anymore," Amanda continued. Emily's mind raced, trying to process the confession. Michael's face flashed before her eyes. The man she thought she knew. Amanda slid a folder across the table. Emily hesitated, then opened it carefully. Inside were photos, messages, and receipts. Each piece pointed directly to Michael. He had been meeting Amanda for nearly a year. He had lied about work trips and late nights. Every alibi now seemed like a carefully crafted story. Emily felt her chest tighten with disbelief. She had never expected this from him. Amanda's eyes softened slightly. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said. "But you deserve to know the truth." Emily swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. Her fingers trembled as she leafed through the documents. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Michael had hidden a second life. He had borrowed money from Amanda under false pretenses. He had promised her everything and given nothing. Emily could feel the betrayal cutting through her. Each photo felt like a punch to the chest. Every message seemed to scream deceit. She wanted to scream herself, but the words wouldn't come. Amanda leaned back, watching her reaction carefully. "I didn't ask for any of this either," Amanda admitted. Emily looked up, meeting her gaze for the first time. The weight of truth was suffocating. She realized this confrontation was just the start. It was only the first step toward clarity. Emily closed the folder slowly, her hands still shaking. Michael's life had been built on lies, and now she knew. She had to decide what to do next. Amanda reached out, touching Emily's hand lightly. "You're stronger than you think," she said softly. Emily nodded, though her heart still felt heavy. The cafe felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in. She wanted to leave immediately, but stayed seated. The truth had arrived, and there was no escaping it. Every moment now felt sharper, more painful. Every breath reminded her of the betrayal. Emily realized she could never go back to before. Michael's choices had changed everything permanently. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. Amanda gathered her own things quietly. Emily felt the gravity of the meeting sinking in. The world she had known was fractured beyond repair. Yet, the meeting had given her clarity she needed. The path forward would be difficult, but at least it was visible. Emily left the cafe with a heavy heart. She carried the weight of what she had learned. But she also carried the first glimmer of resolve. The truth was out, and she could no longer ignore it. Emily returned home, with the folder still clutched in her hands. The house felt empty, in a way it never had before. She placed the evidence carefully on the kitchen table. Each document seemed to radiate betrayal. Her mind raced with questions she didn't want to ask. She replayed every moment with Michael in her head. The late nights, the vague excuses, the unexplained smiles. It all pointed to a reality she had refused to see. The messages between Michael and Amanda were clear. Promises broken. Lies layered upon lies. Emily's fingers traced the words, as if seeking understanding. Every detail confirmed what she had feared. Michael's financial deceit was laid bare. He had borrowed money under false pretenses. He had promised repayment, but vanished from commitments. Emily felt a storm of emotions swirl inside her. Anger, betrayal, sadness. A sense of numbness crept in as well. She had loved this man with her whole heart, and he had built a second life she never knew about. Her mind wandered to the times she had defended him, times she had excused his behavior to herself. Every memory now carried a bitter aftertaste. Emily realized the depth of his deception. Michael had manipulated both her and Amanda. Two lives intertwined by lies. Two women caught in the wake of his selfishness. She tried calling Michael, but stopped midway. Her hands shook as she stared at the phone. Confrontation felt inevitable, but terrifying. Emily wanted him to see her pain. She wanted him to feel the weight of his actions. She needed answers, but the thought scared her. Michael walked in later that evening, casual as ever. Emily felt her chest tighten. She didn't greet him immediately. He noticed the folder on the table. His eyes flicked to it, hesitation flashing briefly. Emily took a deep breath and stood. "Michael, we need to talk," she said, voice steady despite fear. He nodded slowly, trying to appear calm. The conversation began with questions. Questions about the receipts, messages, and photos. Michael tried to explain, fumbling through half-truths. Emily's patience wore thin quickly. She interrupted with facts he could not deny. The lies unraveled in front of him. Every excuse crumbled like sand slipping through fingers. Amanda's name surfaced, and Michael's face paled. He could no longer hide behind charm or denial. Emily saw the fear in his eyes for the first time. She realized he had been caught. The reality of his actions became undeniable. Emily felt both relief and anguish. Relief that truth was finally out. Anguish at the betrayal itself. Michael stood there, silent and guilty. Emily could sense the shift between them. The house, once warm, felt cold and heavy. Every corner seemed to echo lies. The confrontation left no room for pretense. Emily's resolve solidified as she listened to him. She would no longer be blind. She would no longer ignore what she deserved. The folder remained on the table, silent but powerful. A symbol of truth she could no longer escape. Michael had no answers left that could mend the damage. Emily understood she had to make choices for herself. She could not undo the past, but she could claim her future. The night stretched on, heavy with unspoken words. Yet, Emily knew the path forward was hers to decide. No matter how painful, the truth had set her free. That evening, Michael walked in like nothing had changed. Emily stood by the table, the folder between them. Her hands were steady, but her heart raced. Michael noticed immediately. His eyes flicked to the evidence with a flash of panic. "Emily, I can explain," he started, voice low. She shook her head slowly. "No, Michael, it's too late for explanations." The room felt tense, thick with unspoken truths. He stepped closer, hopping to soften the moment. Emily held up a hand to stop him. "I trusted you," she said quietly. "Do you know what that means?" Michael opened his mouth, but no words came. The evidence on the table spoke louder than anything he could say. Photos, messages, receipts, all proof of his deceit. Michael's calm demeanor crumbled slowly. Emily felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. She wanted to scream, but stayed silent instead. The silence was heavier than any confrontation. Finally, she spoke again. "Why, Michael? Why did you do this?" He hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. He tried to offer excuses, weak and stumbling. Emily's eyes never left his face. Every lie he offered sounded hollow now. "You've built your life on lies," she said. "And I was blind the entire time." Michael looked away, ashamed. Emily could see the weight of his guilt finally settling on him. But the sight brought no relief. She realized some things couldn't be undone. Amanda's name surfaced in the conversation. Michael's face went pale, and he didn't deny it. Emily felt a rush of anger flare inside her. The betrayal cut deeper than she had imagined. "You lied to both of us," she whispered. He tried to reach for her hand, but she stepped back. Distance was her shield now. Michael opened his mouth again, fumbling for words. Emily shook her head. "Save it," she said coldly. "You have nothing left to say that can fix this." The room felt smaller, suffocating under the weight of truth. Michael's usual confidence had vanished completely. Emily's resolve grew stronger. She would no longer be manipulated. She would not allow him back into her world unchanged. Michael's silence spoke more than words ever could. Emily finally turned, facing the windows instead. The night outside mirrored the darkness between them. Every shadow reminded her of his deception. Every quiet moment emphasized the breach of trust. Emily felt a calm clarity she hadn't known before. She no longer feared the confrontation. She only feared losing herself in the past. Michael remained still, watching her from across the room. The weight of his actions was undeniable. Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself. "This ends tonight," she said firmly. "No more lies, no more secrets, no more pretending." Michael nodded weakly, accepting what he could not change. Emily felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. She had confronted the truth, and it was powerful. The folder remained on the table, silent testimony of his betrayal. Emily's heart ached, but her mind was clear. She understood the path forward. It would be difficult, but she would face it with strength. Michael could no longer hold control over her life. She had reclaimed her power. And in that moment, Emily knew she would never be the same again. Emily spent the next morning in quiet reflection. The house felt empty, without Michael's presence. She moved through each room deliberately. Packing her belongings was a slow, careful process. Every item reminded her of moments now tainted. The memories she once cherished felt heavy. She placed a photo of them on the dresser carefully. It was the last thing she would leave behind. Michael tried to speak, but Emily held up her hand. "This is final," she said firmly. He looked at her, eyes searching for some sign of compromise. There was none. Emily had made her decision. She would no longer live in a world built on lies. Every step she took reinforced her resolve. The folder with Michael's evidence remained untouched on the table. It was a reminder of why she could not stay. Emily felt a mixture of sadness and liberation. Sadness for the life she had imagined. Liberation for the future she could now claim. She opened the front door and stepped outside. The morning air was crisp and clear. It carried a sense of possibility she had almost forgotten. Michael's voice came after her, hesitant and quiet. "Emily, please." She turned slightly, but did not respond. No words could undo the past. No apology could rebuild trust that was broken. Emily walked to her car slowly, each step measured. She glanced back at the house one last time. It had been her home. Now it was a place of memories she could not keep. The driveway stretched ahead, empty and quiet. She started the engine and felt the hum of power beneath her. The road ahead was unknown, but hers to navigate. Her hands gripped the wheel firmly. Every mile carried her further from betrayal. Every mile brought clarity and strength. Emily allowed herself a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace. The weight of Michael's lies no longer pressed on her chest. She could face the world on her own terms. Her future was hers to shape. The city skyline appeared in the distance. It symbolized opportunity, freedom, and new beginnings. Emily thought of the storm she had survived. The confrontation, the truth, and the heartbreak. All of it had led her here, stronger than before. She realized resilience was born from pain. Every difficult moment had taught her something vital. Emily no longer needed validation from anyone. She would define her own happiness. She drove past familiar streets, leaving the past behind. Every turn on the road felt like a step toward liberation. The horizon glimmered with promise in the morning light. She felt hope stirring within her again. Her heart, though bruised, was open to possibility. Emily knew she would rebuild her life. Not with Michael, not with deception, but with honesty, strength, and courage. The car moved steadily forward, carrying her away. The past was behind, the future ahead. Emily allowed herself a small, quiet smile. She was free. And for the first time in a long time, she truly believed it. The road stretched on endlessly, filled with new chances. Her heart whispered that life could still be beautiful. Emily embraced the uncertainty, ready for what came next. Every mile was a declaration of independence. Every breath was a promise to herself. She was leaving behind lies, betrayal, and heartbreak. Ahead lay freedom, hope, and her own story. Emily's journey had only just begun, and she would face it with courage, strength, and clarity. Emily parked her car by the quiet riverside. The water reflected the pale light of early morning. She stepped out, taking a deep, steady breath. The weight of betrayal had lifted slightly from her shoulders. Every heartbeat felt lighter, freer than before. She thought of Michael and the lies that had ended everything. There was no anger left, only clarity. She realized her life belonged to her now. The past could not hold her any longer. Emily walked slowly along the riverbank. Each step felt deliberate and grounding. The wind brushed against her face, cool and reassuring. She smiled faintly, a quiet acknowledgement of survival. Her heart, though bruised, was open to possibility. She would rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. The folder of evidence remained behind, a closed chapter. Emily understood some truths must remain in the past. She turned her gaze toward the horizon. The sky was painted with streaks of gold and blue. It promised new beginnings and endless opportunity. Emily knew her journey was just beginning. Pain had shaped her, but it would not define her. With one last breath, she embraced the freedom before her. The future was uncertain, but it was hers to claim. Emily stepped forward, leaving the shadows behind. And with that, she began her new life, whole and unafraid.